So I'm going to need to read and post this letter. I'm going to have to revise it now that injustice was served concerning all of my stuff being destroyed at my last place of work. And so I'm going to have to include that incident now as basically Allstate favored on the side of lawbreakers, and everything I owned was ruined and I wasn't compensated for it. So thereby my distrust in employers has grown even more tremendously, and my CPTSD is actually even more elevated than it was anyways. So to the Social Security Disability Reviewers, I'm writing this letter because I'm concerned about the reviewing of my Social Security case. I do feel that a medical review is still in order, as there were new findings in medical documentation concerning my condition, and also because I had physicians that suddenly dropped my treatment plan and went back on their word and even believed that my medical records were altered. Having lost my medical care, and especially the use of metformin that caused my health to greatly improve, I am now going into a much poorer state of health again, as I have gained a tremendous amount of weight in just 1 year without significantly changing my diet. I should probably actually add basically the Citigara poisoning and the leptin levels and how that relates to biotoxin labs and neglected tropical disease, and how metformin was given for PCOS and actually caused all of my female organs to clear, which is actually how that treated me and caused me to get better and put me into remission, whereas now my condition's going back into the relapse without the treatment of that. Anyways, back to the letter. My fatigue has again increased. The shingles-like condition on the top of my head, which is like psoriasis times 10, is again getting much more severe, and I'm experiencing extreme numbness in my extremities, hands particularly, which is interfering with my ability to work, make jewelry especially, and is causing me to wake up several times throughout the night, as the nerve pain with the numbness is so extreme it will wake me up. Concerning the work review, I'm having much difficulty finding employment again. When I do find employment, I feel it is just a matter of months before I'm targeted, bullied, and harassed at jobs. I feel that a major roadblock to gaining employment has to do with an article that was put in the newspaper that resulted from an unwarranted welfare check where all charges were dropped, and what was put in the paper was in contradiction to any evidence, as well as evidence that was stated to be lost in the paperwork. My public defender and the county prosecutor even agreed that the article was false information and that the newspaper should have removed the article, or at least the tags to the article. It is actually extreme defamation of character, but when I called the paper, they would not fix the situation. I'm now making appointments with county commissioners to try to fight for my cause concerning this atrocity. But as someone that used to get interviews almost 100% of the time, and jobs anytime I did interview, at this point now, most often I will not get a call or email back. I'm very certain that this is largely in part due to the newspaper article. I was able to successfully work at the hot springs, as I was much healthier then, about 50 pounds less, able to treat my head shingles with hot springs water so it wasn't constantly painful, itchy, and built up. Also, the job was very low key or low energy most of the time, or flexible, and if I didn't feel so well that day, I was able to get through the shift and make up any work I couldn't do that shift the next shift. I also lived on site, which was helpful, as my head wound requires hours of soaking in many shampoos to treat, and this can be extremely time consuming. Therefore, the time that would usually be spent commuting to or from work wasn't an issue. It is very difficult to find work that will allow me to treat my severe symptoms, and I'm in great need to reestablish medical care, which requires many appointments, many days of the week, or I will very soon be again in the place where I cannot even sit up in a chair and am fainting on the way to the bathroom. I'm just 20 to 30 pounds away from that, and my energy levels are half of what they were before I started working at the hot springs just a little bit over a year ago. Lastly, I'm very concerned for my life, as I do not presently have a safe place to live. I'm on a couch and have worn out my welcome, and my service dog is having to live in the car in the cold. That was the biggest reason I had to leave my apartment and find a place to work that had a place to live with it. My actual diagnosis is complex post-traumatic stress disorder and relates to abusive situations since I was a young girl. That was reactivated in a huge way after the near-death experience that happened on an unwarranted welfare check call when I was actually so sick from mold exposure and biotoxin illness that I couldn't sit up in a chair. The extreme injustice of it has caused my CPTSD to be at an all-time high. A guy that was very scary to me moved under me when I was living on blankety blankety street and initially got approved for a disability. When I had that appointment, I was able to, when I had an apartment, I was able to focus on treating myself and being devoted to doctor's appointments and was going into a much better, healthier state of being. Now I am scared everywhere I go and may end up living in my car again, but would lose my car if I lost my Social Security. When I was approved for Social Security initially, my review was made for the 2 years rather than the 3 years due to the fact that I had a treatment plan set up to treat the chronic Lyme and mold. I believe doctors backed out of that because of the liability of the unwarranted welfare check and the results of that. It's been very disappointing that I was deprived of my opportunity to get much better, but would like to find secure housing and reestablish medical care and get my life back. I'm very talented and used to create businesses and make jobs. I've lost everything due to decades of medical neglect, but want more than anything in the world to get better and reclaim my life as I'm now middle-aged. At this point, if I'm cut off of Social Security disability, I don't even know if my life will be saved, and I'm very scared. I am not fraudulent at all or in any way. I used to be really successful in life and business, and it's heartbreaking on a daily basis that I've had my life stolen by chronic illness. I've actually been advised to try to get down to Guatemala, as I would more likely get the treatment I need for the neglected tropical diseases from Nicaragua that marked the beginning of my health decline and chronic illness. My son, born to me after that Nicaraguan missionary trip, passed away at 20 months old on an operating table in Helsinki, Finland, with the manifestation of rat lungworm they found when they opened him up thinking they were doing heart surgery. Those strongyloids were 85% contamination in the Nicaraguan waters, and my daughter and even grandson showed signs of symptoms of the illness. I want my medical stuff to be figured out for them just as much as myself. The biotoxin labs that were ordered and I was supposed to receive show the pathogens that are behind tremendous weight gain, even on a 1,000 calorie a day diet. But again, if I lose my car and what is my only sense of security and get any sicker, then I have again become, I fear for my life. Losing disability at this time could be detrimental, and I want to believe that doctors in our country will start to acknowledge and treat us that are exposed to these rare diseases and save our lives and show us that we matter and have a purpose for being on this earth. So I guess I'm writing this letter because I feel that there are many things being overlooked in my case, that I have a different sort of situation and circumstance that don't necessarily fit into the norm.